So, picture this, my sister's flaunting her husband's flashy startup life while I'm grinding away, building mine from the ground up. Then, out of nowhere, our parents demand I hand over my savings to bail them out, claiming it's my duty. Yeah, my hard-earned money. Betrayal, secrets, family pressure, it all hits at once. And here's the weird part. Things are about to get really messy. But before we dive in, tell me, where in the world are you watching from today? Let's see, who's along for the ride? The silence in my living room was almost suffocating, thick enough that I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the corner, the one I had restored 3 years ago. Usually, that rhythmic thump brought a strange kind of peace, a reminder that patience can revive even the broken. But today, it felt like a countdown. Across from me, on the custom velvet sofa I'd upholstered myself, sat my parents. Mom's lipstick was smudged, her hands clenching and unclenching around her designer bag like she was trying to strangle it, while Dad stared resolutely at the walnut coffee table I had made, refusing to meet my eyes. "I don't think I heard you correctly," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though my chest was hammering, because it sounded like you just asked me to liquidate my retirement accounts. Mom looked up, frantic energy swimming in her eyes. "Not all of it, Chloe. Just enough to stop the bleeding. We did the math. If you and Leo pull from your savings and maybe take a small equity line on this house, we can cover the bridge loan until Finley gets his next round of funding." I leaned back in my chair, feeling the wood press against my spine. "You want me to mortgage my house, the house Leo and I built with our own hands, to pay for Finley's debts?" Dad's voice, finally, sharp and defensive, cut through the room. "It's not debts, Chloe. It's a liquidity crisis, a temporary cash flow issue. Finley is a visionary, but the market is volatile. They just need a bridge." "A bridge," I repeated, tasting the bitterness. "Finley's been building bridges to nowhere for 5 years. And now that the ground's crumbled beneath him, you want me to be the foundation." Mom's voice rose, shrill and urgent. She stood, heels clicking aggressively against the hardwood floors I had sanded myself. "Elizabeth is your sister. She's pregnant. Chloe, do you want her on the street? Do you want your niece or nephew born in a rental apartment? They're losing everything: the house, the cars, the club membership. The bank is calling in everything. They need a terrifying amount of money by Friday, or foreclosure starts." I stood slowly, still in my workshop apron, fine sawdust dusting my jeans. I caught Mom's eyes flick to the dust, a familiar look of distaste. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Elizabeth and Finley spent years mocking us, calling us quaint, simple, and now, because they'd over-leveraged for a lifestyle they couldn't afford, they wanted us to fix it. Me, Leo, our simple, honest work. "It's not about that," Dad snapped, wiping sweat from his forehead. "It's about duty. You have the stability. You have the cash. We know you do. You haven't spent a dime in 10 years. You owe it to this family to step up when things get hard." I looked at them, really looked. I saw the panic, yes, but beneath it, entitlement, the belief that my resources existed for Elizabeth to drain whenever she wanted. I felt something shift inside me. "I can't do it," I said quietly. Mom froze. "Can't or won't?" "Won't," I clarified, my voice firm. "I won't set myself on fire to keep Elizabeth warm. Not this time." Her face twisted into something ugly, venomous. "You selfish, jealous little girl. You've always been jealous of her shine, haven't you? You want to see her fail because you're stuck here in this workshop life while she was destined for greatness." The words hit like a physical blow. Not just anger or hurt, but betrayal. To them, I wasn't a daughter. I was insurance, a fallback, a resource. My breath caught. "Get out," I whispered. Dad crossed his arms. "We aren't leaving until you sign a check. Then you'll be waiting a long time," I said, reaching for my phone. Leo would be home soon, and he had less patience for this kind of bullying than I did. When they finally stormed out, threats of disownment hanging in the humid air, I didn't cry. I walked into the kitchen and started making coffee, mechanically. My hands trembled slightly, but the adrenaline had faded, leaving a cold ache in my chest. My kitchen wasn't a chef's kitchen, no imported marble, no smart appliances, but it was ours. Leo installed the cabinetry himself. Every hinge, soft close, perfectly level. I carved the crown molding details, every inch a testament to our labor, our sweat, our shared vision. The front door opened, the heavy thud of work boots signaling Leo's arrival. He looked at me, sighed, and asked simply. They came, I handed him a mug. They want $150,000 by Friday. Leo laughed sharply, incredulous. 150 for what? Did Finley buy an island? Apparently the next round of funding dried up. The bank's calling the loans. Mom said it's my duty. She said I'm jealous. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. Leo's eyes narrowed, sharp and analytical. They have no idea about what we actually own. Do they? I shook my head. No. In 10 years, they've never asked about our business, our work, just if we're still doing manual labor. It's better they don't know. If they did, they'd be suing, he said. And that, right there, made it all clear our family lived under a scarcity mindset masked as opulence. They thought anyone with more had a duty to hand it over to the loudest, not realizing the loudest were the ones always shouting the wrong story. Growing up, it was always clear who the star was in our family and who was the support staff. Elizabeth Bright, loud, charming, could get people to do almost anything for her, and my parents adored that shine. I, on the other hand, was quiet, dependable, good with my hands, and expected to just make things happen behind the scenes. If Elizabeth needed a diorama for history class, I built it. If her prom dress tore an hour before the limo arrived, I sewed it. I was the fixer, the reliable one, the girl who didn't need praise because, well, a job done right was reward enough. I didn't go to the expensive private university my parents had promised Elizabeth. They said money was tight. Instead, I went to community college and apprenticed with a local cabinet maker. I loved it. I loved the smell of cedar, the weight of oak in my hands, the resistance of a rough block that revealed its beauty under patient, careful work. There was honesty in it, no smoke, no flash, just craft. That was my world, and I thrived in it. Meanwhile, Elizabeth was building an image with Finley. He entered our lives 5 years ago, all suits and talk of disruption and blockchain and whatever else. They were the power couple, a whirlwind of wealth, parties, and social proof. I remember meeting him the first time on Thanksgiving. Leo and I were tired but content after 2 years of hard work building our lives and careers. Finley sauntered in, looking us over like we were part of the scenery. "So, you fix air conditioners?" he asked Leo, swirling wine like he owned the room. And Elizabeth laughed, high and tinkling. It was the first time I realized this world was superficial, built on appearances, and I was firmly on the outside looking in. Over the years, their wealth became the story. Elizabeth posted photos from trips abroad, flashy houses, luxury cars. Finley talked about rounds of funding, scalability, disruption. My parents hung on every word. And all the while, Leo and I continued to grind. Our work van in the driveway, our sawdust-covered aprons, our houses and furniture built with sweat and patience. We were invisible in their eyes, quaint and safe, the baseline everyone compared to. And yeah, there was a slow burn of resentment. Even if I didn't admit it at first, not jealousy exactly, Not in that bitter way, but a simmering awareness. I saw the cracks, the inconsistencies, the little hints that Finley's empire wasn't as solid as it looked. Changes in office addresses, bounced checks to contractors, the fake designer bags Elizabeth suddenly carried. Each little observation added up, the tension coiling tighter in my chest. And through it all, I kept building tables, chairs, cabinets, every commission a reminder of skill, patience, and value that no flashy image could replicate. I started noticing patterns that my parents couldn't or wouldn't see. The obsession with image over substance, the projection of success when the foundation was shaky. Finley, a so-called visionary, was addicted to the idea of being admired, not to the reality of work. Elizabeth, equally caught up in the glow, became an accomplice in this performative life. And me, I loved my life. Yes, but the contrast made me think. I thought about the satisfaction of something tangible in my hands, of creating pieces that would last, of building a life with integrity and patience. And slowly, that love for my craft merged with a realization the world they were chasing was smoke and mirrors. It was fragile, and they didn't know how fragile it really was. I think that realization gave me a strange kind of power, though I didn't see it at the time. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving them wrong. It was understanding clearly where the leverage lay. They had all this entitlement, all this confidence in what they could demand, and yet they had no idea what Leo and I had quietly accumulated, not just in money, but in skills, strategy, patience. We owned the ground we stood on, quite literally. Every inch of our home, every commission we took on, every careful investment was proof that our quiet life had strength they couldn't measure. I would walk into our workshop, hands rough, shoulders aching from bending over oak or maple, and I'd feel the weight of it, not like a burden, but a grounding. Every cut, every joint, every painstakingly sanded surface was a testament to our labor. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew that this very foundation, this life of honest, patient work would outlast any of the bluster, any of the borrowed confidence that Elizabeth and Finley were riding. It was slow, deliberate, not flashy, but it was real. And that reality, I realized, would eventually matter more than any designer bag, luxury car, or staged Instagram post. So yeah, the resentment was there, simmering. But so was clarity. I didn't want to be the star. I wanted to be unshakable. I wanted to create something lasting, something they couldn't touch with charm or threats, and little by little, that awareness became sharper. I could see their world for what it was, and I could see mine for what it was. Mine had roots, integrity, and the ability to endure, and that, in its own quiet, steady way, felt like victory already. The morning after the ambush in my living room, the workshop felt different. Usually, the smell of sawdust and tongue oil settled me, like a balm for the mind after a long day of work. But not that morning. The air was charged, like static electricity running through every corner. I was working on a series of reception desks for a boutique hotel, White Oak, reclaimed $50,000 worth of commissions I hadn't mentioned to my parents because I knew what the inevitable question would be. Great. So can you cover Elizabeth's baby shower? I didn't answer. I just ran my hands over the rough grain, feeling for imperfections, but my mind was miles away. Leo came home late, boots heavy, smelling of copper wire and ozone, the scent of a long day on commercial HVAC work. He dropped a stack of papers on the kitchen island, sighing, eyes wide and alert. "You are not going to believe this," he said, voice low and serious. I leaned against the counter, bracing. What I stopped by the supply house today. Mike, he runs a high-end landscaping crew, did the work on Elizabeth and Finley's property last year. Retaining walls, infinity pool, landscaping, the works. He didn't get paid? I raised an eyebrow. Didn't get paid or got paid? Got paid? Sort of, the check bounced twice. When he confronted Finley, Finley laughed, told him to get in line behind the venture capitalists. But here's the kicker: Mike got angry, filed a mechanic's lien. Turns out he wasn't the first. 9 liens on that house. Chloe, the equity is gone. The creditors own it. My stomach dropped. I took the papers from him, scanning the public records printouts. It was a graveyard of bad financial decisions, a domino effect of unpaid contractors, bounced checks, and fraudulent promises, and they wanted us to bail them out. They were dragging our parents into this chaos, leveraging our family's hard work like it was some sort of credit card. We needed clarity. I grabbed my phone and called Mr. Henderson, our family attorney. Old school, sharp, always dependable. He still used an dictaphone and wore 3-piece suits in July. The kind of man you wanted on your side when the stakes were high. Henderson, it's Chloe. Morning. I need you to check something: property, finances, the works. His voice crackled over the line, calm but precise. Of course. Chloe, what are we looking at? I explained the situation briefly. The ambush, the demands, the supposed bridge loan for Finley's startup. Henderson listened carefully, then muttered about liens, commercial foreclosure, and something concerning called Apex Development. Apparently, vapor isn't just liquidating, they're radioactive, he said slowly. And your parents? They're walking blindly into the blast zone. My fingers tightened around the phone. How bad is it? There are liens against the primary residence, liens against commercial leases, and a preliminary title search this morning flagged a developer inquiry on the county register. Apex Development is looking at zoning for a multi-unit complex on your parents' land. I felt a sick twist in my stomach. Finley, I whispered, if I had to guess. Henderson continued, voice dropping. He's bundling assets to cover debts. Likely promised the developer the full family estate, your parents' house, and the adjacent lot, claiming he can deliver the title. Selling the farm to pay for the cow, so to speak. But he can't sell the adjacent lot because I own it, I said, voice hardening. Henderson chuckled faintly. Leo walked in then, exhausted but alert. So, he thinks he can bully our parents into selling, buy the neighbor's lot with the proceeds, and flip the whole thing to a developer, he said. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowing. He doesn't know we've got the centerpiece. I nodded. Exactly. And if he's taken a deposit on false pretenses, it's fraud. Criminal fraud. The investigation had begun. That night, we dug deeper. I made calls to contractors, traced bounced checks, and Leo tapped into his network of colleagues, contractors, suppliers, former associates of Finley's. Every call layered tension over the other, a slowly rising awareness of the disaster looming over our parents. Each conversation revealed more unpaid invoices, falsified receipts, empty promises. The web was bigger than we expected, and it wasn't just sloppy bookkeeping, it was deliberate. A house of cards built on smoke, mirrors, and entitlement. The next morning, I went back to the workshop, trying to focus on the oak desks, but my mind kept returning to the numbers, the liens, the fraudulent promises. I called Henderson again to verify details, particularly about the developer's interest in our parents' property and the adjacent lot we owned. Each confirmation added another layer of suspense. It wasn't just about money, it was about leverage, control, and the looming threat that our family could be stripped of everything if we didn't act carefully. Leo kept pacing, muttering about contractors and public records, pulling his phone to show me messages and photos he'd collected. Look at this, he said, a tension in his voice that made me lean closer. pictures of incomplete projects, emails demanding payment, and bounced checks lined up in chronological order. It painted a stark picture. Finley's empire wasn't failing, it was a controlled collapse, engineered to pressure everyone else into bailing him out. I leaned back against the workbench, taking a slow breath. They have no idea who they're messing with, I said softly. Leo nodded, eyes sharp, scanning the documents. They think we're scraping by, hoarding pennies. They don't know about the contracts, the patent licensing, the wait list. They never even asked. That was the terrifying part. In 10 years, our family had only seen our labor as quaint, our craft as insignificant. And now that perceived weakness was exactly what Finley and Elizabeth were trying to exploit. But as I looked around the workshop, at the sawdust on my jeans, the carefully stacked wood, the evidence of years of patient work and planning, I realized the tables were about to turn. We spent hours poring over records, making calls, connecting dots. Each discovery added tension, but also clarity. There was a rhythm to it, like the grandfather clock in my living room, but instead of calm, it was a countdown to confrontation. We cataloged every unpaid contractor, every bounced check, every fraudulent promise. Each piece of evidence layered itself into a narrative. Finley's empire was a mirage. Elizabeth complicit, and our parents dangerously close to collateral damage. By the time we were done for the night, the weight of it pressed on my chest, but it was tempered by a strange clarity. I knew exactly what we were dealing with, and for the first time, the fear began to turn into controlled, deliberate resolve. The story was unfolding, but we were no longer merely reacting. We were anticipating, preparing. The suspense wasn't just for us, it was for everyone who had been caught in Finley's web. And now, we were ready to reveal the truth. A few days later, I heard the crunch of gravel in the driveway. Not our parents' sedan this time, but Elizabeth's Range Rover. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked out to meet her. She stepped out, looking every inch the glossy, tech wife image she'd cultivated for years. Oversized sunglasses, cashmere wrap, the expression of supreme annoyance. She didn't say hello, just looked around my property, the neatly stacked lumber, the workshop, the sawdust collection system, even the vegetable garden Leo had planted, and sneered. "God, it's so dusty here," she said, waving a hand in front of her face. "How do you breathe this all day?" "I wear a respirator," I replied, leaning against the doorframe, calm but alert. "What do you want, Elizabeth?" She lowered her sunglasses, eyes red-rimmed and puffy. "Mom and Dad said you're being difficult. I came to talk some sense into you. Look, I get it. You're resentful. You've always had to work harder for things. And it must be frustrating to see me and Finley succeed so effortlessly." I almost laughed. Succeed. Her house has 9 liens on it, her husband bouncing checks to landscapers. And she calls that success? I shook my head. "Elizabeth, your house is underwater, your husband's checks are bouncing, and you're asking me for money." I kept my voice steady, calm, almost conversational, like discussing a minor inconvenience instead of a catastrophe. Her face flickered, pale for a split second, then snapped back to composure. "That's just administrative noise. It's a cash flow timing issue. Once the bridge loan clears, it all goes away. But we need liquidity now. There's a massive real estate play involving Mom and Dad's land that's going to net us millions. We just need capital to close it." "A real estate play?" I repeated, brow furrowed. "You mean selling Mom and Dad's house to a developer?" Elizabeth froze, eyes narrowing. "How did you know we aren't selling their house?" I said, voice calm but firm. "We are holding the finish line. You're not getting a dime from me." Her arrogance didn't falter. She stepped closer, pointing a finger at my chest. "You are so selfish. You sit here in your paid-off little shack, hoarding your money, while we're trying to build an empire. You don't understand vision. Chloe, you never have. You're happy with sawdust and sweat. You married a handyman. For God's sake, you settled. And now you're punishing me because I aimed higher. I shook my head slowly, letting her words wash over me but not penetrate. I didn't settle, I said, voice low, deliberate, dangerous in its calm. I built. There's a difference. And Leo isn't a handyman. He's a master of his trade, which is why we sleep soundly at night. And you're here begging, she shrieked, venom dripping from every word. I am not begging, I am demanding. You owe this family. Mom and Dad paid for your braces. They fed you. You are the ungrateful one. I took a slow breath and stepped forward. Get off my property. I am not giving you a dime. Not for Finley, not for the house, not for your empire. Her face twisted, disbelief and fury blending into something almost comical. Fine, she spat, turning back to her car. But when Mom and Dad lose everything because you were too stingy to help, that blood is on your hands. Finley will find another way. He always does. He's smarter than you. Chloe, smarter than all of you. I watched her go, gravel spraying against my truck. I felt a strange mixture of pity and resolve. She truly believed it, believed that her entire life was built on a foundation strong enough to demand our labor, our money, our compliance. And she was right about one thing: Finley would try another way. But we were ready. We knew the truth. And the advantage had quietly shifted. Every demand, every plea, every attempt to guilt us into submission had only strengthened my resolve. We weren't just defending money, we were defending integrity, honesty, and the life we had painstakingly built. And that day, standing in my driveway, I felt that invisible line drawn firmly. Clearly, we would not be moved. 2 days after Elizabeth's confrontation, my phone started ringing, an unfamiliar number flashing across the screen. I hesitated, then answered. A gruff voice asked, "Is this Chloe Vance?" "Yes," I replied cautiously. "Are you looking for Finley Doran? You're listed as a reference on a credit application for a vehicle lease. We haven't been able to reach him regarding the repossession of a Porsche Cayenne." I froze. Wait, I never agreed to be a reference. I didn't co-sign anything. The voice confirmed that our names and social security numbers were on the lease application, along with Leo's. My hands went cold. Identity theft? I hung up and stared at the phone for a long moment, the reality sinking in. This wasn't just arrogance or entitlement anymore. It was criminal. I called Leo immediately, trying to keep my voice steady. "Leo, check the credit monitoring app. There's a hard inquiry from a luxury leasing agency 3 months ago, and a delinquency notice just posted." He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. His eyes widened. He forged our signatures. "Exactly," I said, gripping the counter for support. "Felony, Leo, this is serious." He ran a hand over his face, jaw tightening. "We need to go to the police." "Not yet," I said quickly, shaking my head. "If we call the police now, Mom and Dad will hate us forever. They'll think we're spiteful, that we sent their son-in-law to prison out of vengeance. We need them to see it first." Leo nodded slowly, comprehension dawning. "Okay, so we show them everything. Make it real, undeniable. Then we can escalate." We spent the rest of the day gathering documents, the credit inquiry, the delinquency notice, any related emails and notices from the leasing agency. Every piece of paper was a spike in the tension, proof that Finley wasn't just mismanaging. He was using deception to manipulate everyone around him. By late afternoon, we had our plan. We would go to our parents' house together. They needed to see the extent of the betrayal, the real danger, before anyone else intervened. This wasn't a confrontation for anger or revenge. It was strategy. carefully measured. We knew they trusted Finley, believed in his so-called vision. That trust had to be broken gently, with evidence, not yelling. As we drove, I could feel my chest tightening, anticipation coiling like a spring. Every turn, every block brought us closer to the moment of reckoning. The neighborhood passed by, familiar streets now loaded with tension, and I could see Leo's jaw set, his hands gripping the wheel, pulling into the driveway. I saw the sleek black sedan parked there. Finley's. He was already inside, probably flaunting control, acting as if he owned every moment. I took a deep breath. This was bigger than money. This was a moral line, crossed with criminal action, and the weight of responsibility rested squarely on our shoulders. We walked in without knocking. Mom and Dad looked frail, aged, worry etched into every line. Finley stood by the fireplace, scotch in hand, flushed and agitated. Elizabeth was seated on the sofa, pale, eyes avoiding ours. I dropped a thick manila envelope onto the coffee table. The prodigal daughter returns. Finley sneered when he saw me. Come to gloat, or did you finally find your checkbook? We're here to show Mom and Dad the truth, I said evenly. Sliding the envelope closer, Finley tried to intervene, flustered. You're spreading rumors, sabotaging the development deal out of jealousy. I haven't spoken to a single investor, I said, voice firm. But I have spoken to the leasing agency for your Porsche Cayenne. You used my social security number to secure a lease. His eyes flickered. That's a clerical error. My assistant mixed up files. I'm handling it. Handling it, I echoed, eyebrows raised. Leo stepped forward, blocking him. And the liens, he asked? Calm but forceful. The 9 liens on your house? Clerical error 2. Finley's composure shattered, his arrogance giving way to panic. You don't understand high finance. This is leverage. We're close to a payout. Mr. Doran, the bank sees debt, not leverage. Leo said evenly. Every ounce of his presence was grounding, a wall against chaos. I looked at my parents, their faces pale, torn between disbelief and the desperate hope that Finley was right. I kept my voice calm, conversational. Even as the adrenaline thrummed through me, this isn't a rumor. Mom, this isn't a misunderstanding. He forged our information. Identity theft. That's a felony. The room went silent, the tension thick. You could almost hear the weight of each lie collapsing, the fragile image of control shattering. Every glance, every hesitation, every flicker of recognition in my parents' eyes told the story they were starting to see the truth. And for once, the leverage wasn't his, it was ours. Carefully, methodically. We'd prepared, gathered evidence, and waited. And now, standing here, we held the undeniable proof of his deceit, ready to act but on our terms, not in panic, not in anger, but in strategic, controlled clarity. We were in command, and the game had just shifted. The country club ballroom was an assault of gold and white, ice sculptures glinting under bright lights, a string quartet playing softly in the background, trying to lend elegance to what felt like a war zone. Finley was at the center of it all, manic energy radiating off him like heat. He was sweating through his suit, laughter too loud, eyes darting toward the entrance every few seconds. The place was packed with investors, local politicians, and the Apex Development representative, Mr. Sterling, a sharp-eyed man I recognized from his website. Elizabeth looked pale, forced into a sequined gown that did nothing to hide her exhaustion. My parents sat at the head table like prisoners of war, tense, trying to look composed. But every glance betrayed their anxiety. I caught my mother's eye as we entered, and the relief there was heartbreaking. She wanted to believe in the magic solution Finley promised. Finley clinked his spoon against a glass as the appetizers were cleared. The room went silent instantly, every head turning toward him. He raised a hand, theatrically. "Thank you all for coming," he announced, voice booming. "Tonight is about the future of our family, with the little one on the way." He gestured to Elizabeth, who forced a weak smile, and the future of our legacy. A few polite claps from the audience, nothing genuine, but Finley mistook it for awe. He continued, eyes locking onto mine, challenging. As many of you know, I've been working tirelessly on a project that will transform our local community, the Dorn Estate Development. And I am proud to announce we have secured the final assets to move forward with Apex Development. My generous in-laws have agreed to contribute the loan, ND, and we will be breaking ground next month. He gestured toward a ceremonial contract and gold pen, holding it out to my father. Dad, Finley said, voice dripping with fake affection but eyes hard. Please do the honors for the future for your grandson. The room held its breath. My father's hand trembled as he reached for the pen, eyes wide and uncertain. He wanted to believe, but his gaze flickered to me, searching for guidance. I stood, chair scraping softly against the hardwood floor, the sound sharp in the hushed room. Actually, I said, my voice carrying clearly, projecting without a microphone. There seems to be a misunderstanding. Finley snapped his head toward me. Chloe, sit down. This isn't the time for your little outbursts. No, I said firmly, walking toward the head table. I didn't look at him. I looked directly at Mr. Sterling, the developer. Mr. Sterling, isn't it I believe you're under the impression that the Dorn family owns the 12-acre parcel required for your zoning permit? He nodded, cautiously, looking between me and Finley. Yes, we have a letter of intent stating title is clear. That letter is fraudulent. I stated, calm, measured. I pulled the deed from my clutch and placed it on top of the pile in front of him. I am the sole proprietor of Oak and Iron Holdings. That land was purchased 3 months ago, and it is not for sale, not today, not ever. There is no deal. The room went deadly silent. Finley's eyes widened. Glass of scotch shaking in his hand. Elizabeth's mouth dropped open, the pretense of control evaporating. My parents looked back and forth, confusion painted across their faces. You own the lot. My father stammered, we own the lot. I confirmed, voice steady, almost conversational. And we are not selling well, which means your deal with Apex is dead. Finley lurched forward, teeth bared. You little careful, Leo said, stepping in front of me, his frame solid, immovable. Finley bounced off him, stumbling, shock and rage mixing on his face. I pulled out a second document, a copy of the police report filed earlier that day regarding the unauthorized use of my social security number for the Porsche Cayenne lease. Third, I laid down the public records showing the 9 liens currently active on their residence. I let them settle on the table. The visual weight, undeniable. The room was frozen. Investors whispered, checking their phones, scanning the documents. The illusion Finley had built with charm, theatrics, and intimidation crumbled like sand through fingers. He could feel it, and his panic became almost palpable. Fraud. This is all fraud, he roared, pointing at me, voice cracking. You forged documents, you're lying. No, I said soft, cutting through the chaos. This is truth, reality. The house is gone. Mom, he doesn't own it. There is no money. There is no development. Only debt. Elizabeth trembled, hand on her stomach, eyes wide as she looked between Finley and us. She had been complicit, but now the carefully maintained veneer was gone. She realized, finally, what the foundation beneath her life actually was. Finley, desperate, was grasping at anything to salvage his image. But each gesture, each shout only reinforced the weight of the evidence before the room. The silence that followed was suffocating, filled with the sound of reality settling, of carefully constructed lies shattering into jagged pieces. Finley's face drained of color, gray and hollow. The investors shifted uneasily, murmuring, some standing, trying to process the chaos. Mr. Sterling adjusted his glasses, frowning at the papers. then looked at Finley, his expression cold and professional. "I think we're done here," he said. "My legal team will contact you regarding the deposit. We expect a full refund by morning, or we will pursue charges for wire fraud." Finley slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. Sweat streaked down his temples, the manic energy replaced by the crushing weight of consequences. The guests began to rise, murmuring, moving toward the exits, a hesitant, awkward exodus. My parents remained seated, frozen, but their expressions were no longer of worry, they were of recognition, of relief mingled with disbelief. Mom looked at me, tears brimming, not the disappointed, judgmental gaze of the past, but a recognition of a truth finally revealed. "Chloe," she whispered, "let's go home," I said softly to Leo, resting a hand on his arm. "I think we're done here." Finley's empire, built on smoke, mirrors, and manipulation, had collapsed in minutes, and in that collapse, quiet satisfaction settled over me, not joy in his downfall, but relief that the truth was finally visible, undeniable, and justice, however delayed, was in motion. The tension, the suspense, the confrontation, all of it had led to this one moment of clarity, where the real value of our labor and honesty stood firmly against deceit and entitlement. The fallout was swift and brutal, just as Leo had predicted. Within 2 days, Finley was arrested. The authorities moved fast once the evidence was undeniable. Wire fraud, identity theft, bank fraud. He had woven an empire of personal debt, rotating loans and credit cards to cover the interest on other debts. It wasn't just exaggeration or poor judgment. It was a Ponzi scheme built on illusion. And now the house of cards had collapsed. He couldn't afford bail. Elizabeth moved back in with Mom and Dad. The mansion in the hills was foreclosed on within the month. The cars, the designer clothes, the curated social status, all gone. What remained was stark reality, and for the first time, she was confronted with the consequences of her choices. The first few weeks were brutal. Elizabeth cried, sometimes endlessly, sometimes quietly, blaming everyone and everything Finley, the system, me occasionally. But reality has a way of piercing through excuses and illusions. Slowly, she started to see her own role in the mess. She began the slow, painful process of rebuilding, taking small, honest steps. The first job she found was as a receptionist at a dental office. Not glamorous, not visionary, but it was work that cleared her account each paycheck. It was stability. It was a start. And she was learning again the value of accountability and integrity. Mom and Dad carried the shame of being duped. They were still processing the public humiliation, the realization that their trust had been manipulated. There were moments of silence at the dinner table, quiet glances exchanged, but the hostility that had once defined their interactions was gone. There was a fragile, tentative respect growing, a recognition of a truth they had been blind to, and slowly, life began to regain some semblance of normalcy. For Leo and me, the weight of judgment and expectation that had hung over our family for so long lifted. It wasn't a sudden lightness, more like a slow exhale after years of holding our breath. The work we had done, the careful attention to every detail of our lives and finances, had protected the family. That fact, that quiet satisfaction, settled over me in waves. There was no need for pride, no desire for recognition. The security of knowing we had prevented disaster was enough. I walked through the house, noticing little things with new appreciation. The cabinetry Leo had installed, perfectly leveled, soft close hinges, the crown molding I had carved, every curve and detail a testament to patience and skill. Every piece of furniture, every project, completed, was a symbol of work done well, of stability built deliberately. The workshop, the heart of our labor, felt like a fortress of integrity. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't showy, but it was ours, solid and enduring. Some nights, Leo and I would sit on the back porch, watching the sun dip behind the 2 acres of land next door the lot we had purchased quietly through Oak and Iron Holdings. That land, once just a plan for a guest cottage, now held possibilities. We talked in hushed tones about the future, the potential expansions, what we could build without anyone else dictating the terms. Maybe a larger workshop, maybe bringing on a few apprentices to handle the growing wait list for our reception desks. We could dream big, but it would always be grounded in reality, in craft, in labor that had tangible results. Mom would occasionally wander into the workshop, offering help or just watching, sometimes with a tentative smile. The awkwardness of previous years was replaced with a quiet curiosity, a willingness to learn and understand the value of honest work. Elizabeth, too, started to show glimpses of humility. She would ask questions, sometimes hesitant, about tools or techniques, or simply observe how a piece was measured, cut, and assembled. It was a small start, but the walls of pretense and entitlement were cracking. I reflected on the lessons learned during all of this. Integrity matters, patience matters, labor, real work creates not just objects, but stability, respect, and ultimately, power. It's quiet, often overlooked, but it endures. Appearance and status can be stripped in an instant, but the skill and foresight we cultivated remained untouchable. Watching Finley fall, seeing the reality of debt, deceit, and illusion underscored the importance of building life on foundations that couldn't be manipulated by charm or flash. Every morning, the smell of sawdust and finishing oils was a balm once again. Leo would start with the commercial HVAC work, I would handle my furniture commissions, and we would cross paths in the kitchen, exchanging brief comments, sometimes smiles, sometimes shared observations about a tricky cut or a perfect join. Life had its rhythm again, and it was ours. The anxiety that had previously felt omnipresent now seemed like a distant shadow. The 2 acres next door, standing quietly in the golden light of late afternoon, became a symbol of what careful planning and deliberate action could achieve. We could expand, create, nurture, not for vanity, not for social media, not for show, but for something real. We discussed workshops, apprenticeships, even small community projects, things that brought tangible value rather than hollow status. It was liberating to think in terms of growth that was deliberate, ethical, and grounded. Elizabeth, slowly adjusting to her new reality, began to contribute in small ways at home. She cooked, cleaned, organized, helped with errands, and even started sharing in discussions about family planning and finances. Albeit tentatively, she was learning humility, the weight of responsibility, and, importantly, the tangible value of honest work. My parents watched her, sometimes with skepticism, sometimes with quiet approval, and I could see them processing the idea that their lives could continue without illusions, without reliance on empty promises. Evenings were often spent together in the kitchen or on the back porch. Conversations turned to the land, to upcoming projects, to new commissions. We spoke of ideas for the workshop expansion, how to manage apprentices, which contracts to pursue next, and the possibilities for the 2-acre plot. It wasn't just planning for profit, it was planning for sustainability, for legacy, for security, for a family that could withstand mismanagement, deceit, or misfortune. And in those discussions, I felt a deep satisfaction, a quiet pride that didn't need acknowledgement, that didn't demand applause. It was enough to know that we had protected our parents, that we had preserved what was real and valuable. Occasionally, I would catch my mother watching us from the kitchen doorway or the living room, her expression softening, And I realized she was learning too that the stability we had created wasn't luck, wasn't quaint, wasn't incidental. It was the product of skill, patience, and careful thought. And slowly, that understanding rebuilt the bridge between us, not perfectly, not without tension, but with sincerity and recognition. Sometimes, late at night, Leo and I would sit quietly on the porch, the wind rustling through the trees, the 2-acre field swaying gently in the moonlight. We would sip beer or tea, just taking it in. I would rest my head on his shoulder, thinking about the journey, how we had been underestimated, how our labor had been dismissed, how our patience had been overlooked, and yet, through careful observation, strategy, and deliberate action, we had turned that perceived weakness into unassailable strength. We had protected our family, our assets, and our integrity. The reconciliation wasn't magical. It wasn't a sudden, perfect resolution. My parents still bore the weight of embarrassment and shame. Elizabeth had a long road ahead: bankruptcy, single motherhood, rebuilding her life from scratch. But there was progress. She had an honest job, a paycheck she could rely on, a daily structure. The lessons were harsh, but grounding. Slowly, she was learning accountability and resilience. Leo and I returned to our rhythm of work and life, but it was now underscored with a new lightness. We no longer carried the burden of their judgment or the threat of being called upon to bail out illusions. We had done what was necessary. We had protected what mattered: the workshop, the furniture, the land. Each tangible piece of our life was a testament to patience, skill, and honesty. Each day was built deliberately, with awareness and care, looking out over the 2-acre plot, the wind whispering through the tall grass. I imagined the future, maybe a larger workshop, maybe apprentices learning the craft, maybe even small projects for the community. We had room to grow, to build, to create. It was not flashy. It was not for show. It was real. And that reality, that quiet, deliberate creation, was our triumph, one solid piece at a time. That's how we built our life, one piece at a time. And this time, it was ours entirely. And that's how it all unfolded: truth, patience, and hard work winning over deceit and flash. Life isn't about shortcuts or appearances. It's about building something real, piece by piece, with honesty and resilience. I hope this story makes you think about what's truly valuable in your own life. If it resonated, go ahead and drop a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and consider subscribing. I'd love to hear how you build your own foundations and what lessons you take from stories like this.